So guys, welcome back to the channel. Not sure exactly what we're going to do in today's video. Last week I decided to get out here and start working on wisteria. Now I've taken out most of the Chinese wisteria on the property. Long story short, my grandmother brought in a tiny little sprig of the stuff because she loved flowers and had a garden behind her house. And she let it trellis up on a small little patch in her flower garden. Well, her health declined and my aunt put her in a nursing home and nothing really happened or was going on with the house and the garden. No care was taken. Wisteria, if you know, is like kudzu. It has to be cut back constantly. It grows like a foot a day or can. And, it just takes over. It climbs trees, it pulls trees to the ground, it covers everything, kills everything, destroys anything it grows on. And it went wild for several years. And I didn't even think about it. None of us thought about it till one day I noticed that it was all over the brick house. If I got pictures, I know I've got pictures. If I can find them, I'll put them in. But it had gotten all over the brick house. It had gone from my grandfather's house, the brick house, all the way out almost to the double wide. It had gone all through the pine trees. It had covered probably, rough estimate, 15 acres it had destroyed. And over the last 5-6 years, I cleared out the majority of that wisteria and got it under control. It is not something easy to deal with. You cannot kill the stuff. It grows super rapidly. It spiders across the ground. Like horrible stuff. You literally got to dig it out from the ground, rip it out. So that's what I did with the Root Grapple on my 770 and my T590 is I went through and just scoured the earth essentially. That and the old TD340 dozer with the ripper on the back. Just went through and pulled that stuff out of the ground, completely have to start over from scratch. Anything that's around, you cannot leave. You have to destroy everything to get this stuff completely eradicated. So I got it cleared up from the house all the way back to the backyard. I got it cleared up from the house, around the house, all the way to the double wide, cleared all that out. There's only a couple sprigs here and there that pop up, but I can hit it with the lawnmower and keep it under control and hopefully finally get the rest of it completely eradicated. But there was one section right out here between the tree line and the pond where it had gone unchecked. Now, I'd cut a road back in, one of the early videos on this channel where I cut the road to the pond back in, and everything to the right side of the road looking at the pond had started getting enveloped in this wisteria. And it was creeping almost all the way to the pond. And that's quite an area. I'll show on Google Earth or maps an area to show you where this is all affected. But it had gotten everywhere. And I'd kind of put it on the back burner for the last couple of years and stopped working on wisteria. But this year I was like, I've got to get it under control or it will get away from me again. And it's going to destroy so much timber and so much woodland that I'm going to have to restart that, it's just bad to think about. But Friday I got out here and I got onto it, and it was just one of those spur of the moment things. I didn't set the camera up. It wasn't going to be good to do anyway, and show you what I'm talking about. So this is the road down to the pond, everything from the right over. I was already starting to see little tiny wisp of wisteria vines creeping across. I did not want it to get in this section over here. But as you see, I've had to clear everything down to the red clay. I had to rip the vines out of the ground. As you can see on this tree right here, maybe, all those vines hanging out of that pine. I left that pine because it's a good size. I'm gonna cut it with the chainsaw, dig the stump with the excavator, and use that for the mill. As well as those back there, you can see those giant vines. We'll get closer to it. But here, right to the right of me, I haven't got this small section cleared out. It needs to be done. This has been pretty sketchy work with the 86, so this is a pretty good grade right here. And trying to push these trees and pull these vines and not flip the machine. There was quite a few pucker moments Friday, but just right here, you can see where that wisteria is snaking around. It's snaking around all the pines, all the trees. It chokes them out, it kills them, it breaks them over. Anything it can climb on, it climbs on to get up to the top of the canopy, and then it bushes out and takes all the sunlight away from the trees and slowly kills them. And, you know, this stand of pine has been growing for probably 15 years or so, which really, really sucks to lose it all, but I've got to stop the wisteria. I've got to stop it from spreading and getting into any more of my trees. So we'll walk in here a little bit more. It was torrential rain the last couple of days, so this is a mud pit. It's one reason why we're not in the 86 and continuing to work on this today. It's got to drop a little bit, but it will make it a lot easier to uproot and push these pines over. I can say the 86 is basically a little bulldozer, because with that root grapple on, I could just put it in the ground and I could dig along and just flip these trees right out, stump and all, and the vines, and just push them all. As you see, there's a big pile over here we're going to have to burn all later. But, you know, a lot of this has been taken care of, and I only worked out here for about 3.5, 4 hours. So it didn't take long to get to the point I'm at. I mean, that 86 made short work of it, and I just slid in this red clay already. I know my boots are gonna be ruined, but here's some of the bigger vines, and this stuff will grow like that big around the vines. It'll be like a tree. One of the main old stumps when I first started clearing was like that, but you can just see where this stuff snaked around, and you can see the scars in this tree. This isn't where I hit it with the grapple. This is where that wisteria vine had cleaved to it and was strangling the tree all the way up these pines, those wisteria vines. And this stuff roots really hard. Like, I could go through and grab it with the grapple and pick the grapple up or pull the lift arms up, and it would about flip the 86 over, and 86 is not a light machine. So these things grab in, and they grab in hard and deep, and you just have to scour the earth essentially to get it all out of there. I mean, there's more going up this sweet gum right here, all around these trees. But there's the burn pile so far. Lots of trees gone, lots of wisteria vines. Now we've got basically this section from here all the way around to probably about there yet to wipe out, clear, to completely get rid of this stuff. You guys tell me in the comments, what do you think that is? Coyote? Bobcat? Definitely paw print. Here's some good examples. You can see those wisteria vines coming out of the ground, gripping into this pine tree, literally squeezing it, strangling it. You can see the pressure it's applying to the bark and the deformation there as it spirals its way up the tree. And it's doing this on all the trees, all the way up to the top, and leafs out and blocks the sun from them. You can see this pine right here where it broke off, where the vines are still wrapped around it. It's horrible stuff, it really is. It's wrapped all around this little cedar tree here. I'm not one for deforestation. I'm not a tree hugger, not a hippie, but I do grow pine. I mean, I am in forestry. I am in, you know, tree production. It's not all cut and destroy. We planted 80 acres of saplings and trees after the last time we logged. I mean, you've got to regenerate that stuff. You can't just cut it and let it be. There's still a little bit of wisteria over here that's popping back up on this little tree line here, old fence line, but it's pretty much eradicated. There's some more vines that they're disconnected and dead and dried up. There is a big old pine over here, which I'm definitely going to take down and, you know, mill up for lumber. But you can see the wisteria vines on it. I've taken a ton of them down and broken up a ton of them, but you can see how much bigger these vines are here, going around this pine, as big and as old as it is. And it's all in the tree limbs. It's breaking limbs off, it's pulling limbs down. It pulled the top out of that cedar tree right there. I mean, it's just horrible stuff. It does horrible things. It's an invasive species. If there ever was such a thing as an invasive species, wisteria is definitely it. And like I said, I hate to see this stand of pine destroyed, but it's going to be destroyed either way. Here's a good example. I cut this vine a year ago or so, and it's died back. But I mean, look at the scar. Look at the scar in the trunk of that pine tree. Look at what it did. It literally just picks up and strangles a tree to death. It strangles it to death, climbs it, blocks it from the sun. It's horrible stuff. And here's another. That is a huge vine. That is a vine right there, anchored out right there. And you see this little runner where it's kind of fused around this tree. I think this is a sweet gum. Might be wrong, but it's like a serpent coiling around. But yeah, again, I love this little shaded area. I love this little pathway back through here. And I hate that all these trees have got to go, but it's the only way to stop and eradicate this wisteria. These pines will grow back in another 10, 15 years. It'll look like this again, but for right now, I just have to wipe it all out, and it really does upset me that I have to wipe them all out, but I have to prevent the spread of this literal disease on my property, because if I don't stop it now, it'll take over everything. Now, we've walked in a little ways, and I don't have to go this far in, honestly. I haven't seen any wisteria in this in a little bit, but definitely this whole section over to at least where it cleared's got to go. And on the flip side, on this side, on the fence line, on the property line, it's over here. It jumped into the neighboring property, my aunt's place, and it's her problem now. I'll keep it cut back where it doesn't grow back into my side, but it's not my problem. You can see it, how it went up the barbed wire fence, how it went around. Crazy, crazy stuff. It's just taking this tree line between that pasture and here and going crazy. I mean, look at, here's a prime example of this stuff gone wild and unchecked for years. Is look at this tree right here. Look at the sheer amount of vines. All vines climbing up this tree, blocking it from the sun, killing it slowly. It already pulled this cherry tree down right here. It's just nasty, nasty stuff. I cannot badmouth wisteria enough, in all honesty. Now, this whole section of the house, the garage, the back of the house, the whole backyard here, all these trees was completely overtaken by wisteria. And this I cleared up, like I said, a couple years ago. And luckily, it's not really coming back. You know, it's spring when all the daffodils start popping up. I'm so glad to see all these daffodils still coming back up after all this was covered in wisteria and everything was choked out. There's a plot there. There's a little plot of them over here beside the old junkyard, all around the pump house, the well house, all back here. And they're all around the old sharecropper cabin, my great-great-grandfather's cabin, my great-grandfather's farmhouse. They're all over the property. And again, you know, it's springtime when you start seeing these little guys everywhere. I know it's super bright, but more daffodils right beside great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather's homesteads. I've seen a lot of videos on TikTok recently that talk about, you know, if you're ever walking out in the woods or somewhere or in a field and you just find a bunch of daffodils around like this, that there was normally an indication of an old homestead or farm or something like that. And if that ain't true, everywhere my people were on this property, there are daffodils that pop up in the spring. Got a couple more right here, right beside the chimney in the living room, sitting room. More over here to the right of the front steps. And we got more over by the driveway gate. But this is another area I worked on this week. There was a big, humongous oak tree right here. I mean, had to be over 200 years old. huge canopy, covered all this guy, all over where these cedar trees are now. And it fell back in, I don't know, 2010, 2011. And it finally decomposed enough where, you know, I come up here and scrubbed all this stuff a couple years ago and piled up the brush piles, but never cleared it. So that was one thing I got done last week, was cleared all this off, left the cedars, got a lot of space now for them to grow out and bush out and, you know, clean up this area right here of the pasture. But just one more thing I got knocked out, again, off camera stuff. I got to get better about setting up the camera and filming instead of just jumping in a piece of equipment and going and working, because I know you guys want to see that stuff rather than the after. It's kind of funny. Sometimes it's like skip the labor and show me the baby, and sometimes it's skip the baby, show me the labor to get there. I don't think there's anything I really regret more recently on the property than losing this old pear tree that was planted right behind my great-grandparents' house. It had a cedar tree growing up beside it and some kind of vine all over it, and it basically strangled it out. I cleared everything off of it in hopes that it would rebound, but by the end of the year, it had fallen on the ground. But this is my first time up here so far this spring, and by some miracle, this thing is still alive. It completely came out of the ground, all the roots broke off, but somehow there is life here as we see new sprigs coming off and blooms and leaves. I can't believe somehow this old pear tree is still alive. So I don't know what I gotta do, if I've gotta like cut these little sprigs off, put them in some kind of potting mix or root starter or something to save part of this tree and keep it growing, but it's alive. Somehow, some way, this thing is alive and putting out leaves and blooming, and it looks like this. I thought it was completely done for. That's actually the hole that it sat in. That's where it fell out of. I picked up with the excavator and kind of tossed it over here out of the way, and crazy to think somehow, some way, it's still alive. It's still trying. Insane. One thing I know I've got to prioritize very soon is coming back here and grabbing all of these cedars. I don't know what happened, but after last hurricane came through, all of these cedars were down, just tumbled like dominoes. So there's a lot of potential fence posts here and maybe some mill lumber, something of cedar, but definitely need to come back here and grab them. There's a couple more back there that have fallen, and I just don't understand what happened, unless it was just domino effect. All the rain, all the wind, ground was soft, one tipped and just pushed them all over. But ton of cedar back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 11 pretty big cedars down. Now I know this is probably going to translate poorly on video, but this is the biggest grouping of daffodils and iris on the entire property. Is around the old sharecropper cabin right here. Now I can't remember the family that was in this cabin's name that farmed this field here. I'll have to ask my mother about it. I think she still remembers the name. I'll put it on the screen, but the wife definitely had the green thumb and loved flowers, cause she did a lot of planting and a lot of daffodils and iris around this old cabin to make it a home instead of you know, just somewhere they lived to work. I don't think the iris have popped up and got to maturity yet. I think they're just now starting to poke back through. There's some of them right now. Some of these iris are just now starting to pop out, put some buds. But if I recall correctly, these are all white iris. And then we've just got a mix of daffodils, whites, with yellow centers, all yellows, yellowy orange, just all kinds of varieties and colors. of little daffodils all around, front, side, behind the cabin, you know, just all over, all back in there. I went back in there the other day. I walked the property and didn't have the camera with me, but even a little sprig out here in the middle of the pasture. I don't know if they naturally grew there or I accidentally pushed some dirt with a bulb in it out there while I was working. But yeah, crazy the amount of flowers out here. And years past, none of this popped up because it was all brushed up and grown up. And I recently came back here and cleared this out with the 86 and the Vail mower. I got to get back here and clear the rest of this behind the homestead out. There's more back there. I'm sure in a year or two, if I clear it out, they'll be all over back there too. But just crazy the amount. I mean, you just look right here. It's not translating well on video, but all of that is flowers. Hopefully guys, you're not turned off by this video. I know we're not getting work done. We're not doing any progress. It's just kind of a walk around and enjoy the beginning of spring and take a look at the property. Like I said, I walked pretty much the entire property line 2-3 days ago to check all this stuff, and you know, it's just starting to see all this stuff. I wanted to come out here and film it and share it with you guys and talk a little bit more about the history of the property and all that. It's too wet right now really to get any work done in the machinery because of all the torrential downpours we had yesterday, Saturday, throughout the weekend. And you know, I just don't want to mud up everything and tear up everything. Probably will run the mill later. Don't know if I'll film that or not. This might be the end of the video here. I know I've rambled around, showed you a bunch of stuff and talked. I talked and talked, but hopefully it wasn't too boring for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and enjoyed the little tour and walk around and sights of spring here on my farm. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.